Hello and welcome to our webinar. My name is Andrew Townsend and I'm marketing operations here at Smarty. Today's webinar is about setting up an API for geocoding, and we're very excited to get started. However, before we do, let's go over just a few items of housekeeping. Yes, this webinar will be recorded. We will send a copy of it out to everybody who registered, so you can be looking for that in your email inbox later today. And you'll be able to share that. So if you think that the content inside of this is useful, you'll be able to forward that on to others who may benefit from the recording. Second, to interact with our presenter and other audience members, feel free to use the chat and the Q&A features in the Zoom webinar interface. We use this to make sure that we're answering all of the questions that you may have and that you're going to get out of this webinar what you're hoping to. So please do use the chat and the Q&A. All right, so our presenter today is Ben Rivera, one of our support specialists. Thank you very much, Ben, for your time. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn the time over to you.
All right. So what we're going to go over today is how to set up your US Street API to work with more accurate geocodes. So let's get into the first set of questions here. So some of the questions that we receive more often than others are why are my geocodes inaccurate? Of course, we'll go over the answers here in the next few slides. How accurate are your geocodes? Does Rooftop Geocoding license also validate addresses? If I'm already using Smarty's API, do I need to set up another API in order to call the geocoding API? What do people need Rooftop Geocodes for? And what shampoo does Ben use? We'll find out later. Okay, so first question. Why are my geocodes inaccurate? A lot of the time, the reason that we get reports for incorrect geocodes is because someone does not have a geocoding license. So they're going to be getting what's called a ZIP9 accurate geocode. So it's going to be the centroid point of a delivery segment, but not the rooftop. So you always want to make sure that you check that you actually have a rooftop license and that you're calling the rooftop license correctly. Otherwise, yes, you will have geocodes that are not specifically on the rooftop of a building. Another question we get is how accurate we are. These are our official numbers. So from the main source of our geocoding data, we have 96% of the addresses are rooftop accurate. Of those 96, 85 are actual rooftop and the other 11 is parcel. As you can see, the percentages apply to addresses that have been matched. So these are addresses that we do know that we have had pass through our system at least once. With the parcel, those are going to be geocodes that are really close to accurate. They're almost rooftop, but it's mainly going to be where you're going to have a delivery sent to. So it's not necessarily on the building itself, but it's where you might be receiving that mail. So it could be a dedicated mailbox. It could be PO boxes. That's where that other 11% is.
So maybe just a little bit of clarification. I'm going to assume most of the people that are on this webinar or watching it are familiar with what geocodes are. That's why they're here. But maybe we should talk about, because that 85% rooftop is a major Smarty specific number.
Yeah.
Like if you go anywhere and you run an address and they give you a geocode, that's not necessarily going to be rooftop, right? Like
Correct.
it can be so granular that on my tiny home, an eighth of an acre or whatever it is, it's tiny space, that geocode on rooftop will actually give you the coordinates of the house as opposed to my backyard or my front yard or something.
Yeah, so that kind of a geocode, if it's able to get it down to the area, is going to be, oh gosh, now I'm forgetting the name. Can't remember the name, but
sure. Yeah. But there's partial centroid kind of stuff where they just puts the pin in the center of the land,
of the lot, essentially.
Or you can get ZIP+4 level that is the block.
Mhm.
or something,
That is correct.
something along those lines. So
Yeah.
there was a time I ran a geocode comparison between Smarty and another uh, geocoding provider, and both resulted in a rooftop. Like it said, rooftop level match, but Smarties was on the roof, and the actual pin of the other competitor was just parcel centroid, but they claimed that it was rooftop.
Yeah.
So this is actual rooftop. This isn't we're claiming rooftop, but it's a
Right.
parcel centroid.
Yeah. And if anything, we will report we were able to get it to parcel, but we're trying to move all those parcels over to rooftop. So it's getting better. And
Awesome.
then, of course, as you can see down there at the bottom of the slide, if you do notice an incorrect geocode, you're more than welcome to email us at support@smarty.com. That's going to be my team. We do have a couple dedicated support agents that are able to correct those geocodes. Those also get pushed out with our data deployments, which is usually around the middle of the month. So yeah, if you do notice that something is off, let us know. We're more than happy to fix that. Okay. Does the rooftop geocoding license also allow address validation? Yes. So they are actually part of the same API. US Street, you'll see a few different licenses there. Some older ones are our US legacy standard. That one is not offered anymore. We do have our US core license, and then we have our US rooftop geocoding license. Those are all part of the same API. So they all go through the same process and get all of the same data returned. The only difference is that with the rooftop license, you do have access to all potential return fields. So that includes some of the enterprise level stuff that you might see on the pricing page, like RDI information. And then, of course, you get the zip 11 accurate geocode in those returns as well. Whereas the others, again, they'll return zip 9. So it's not going to be quite the rooftop, but it will be the center of a delivery segment.
And that's the block almost, or it's not
Yeah,
always a block, but
not necessarily.
the area wherein the zip 11 shows up.
Yeah, and it could be pretty big depending on how suburban, I guess, the housing is. So if it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, could be a pretty large, and it might be pretty far off from the intended address, but that could just be the centroid point of the delivery segment that USPS has assigned.
Sure. There is a follow-up here. So you're saying rooftop geocoding license. Do I get any geocoding without a rooftop geocoding license?
You do. Yeah, so that's you'll still get those zip 9 geocodes. With any of the APIs, you don't even have to specify any parameters to make that happen. Those will just come in. So you don't have to, and even with the rooftop license, you don't have to make any specifications. It'll just be included in the return. So yeah, luckily it's already there. It should be available immediately.
Great.
Okay, if I'm already using Smarty API, do I need to set up another API in order to call it geocoding? No. Like I said before, the rooftop geocoding is its own license. Most of the time, you can just enter this license equals, and then if you have the rooftop geocoding license, that should show up. Yeah, if you're not passing this license value in, and you do see the zip 9, that's where it is. You should see zip 9 if you're not passing that in and you have a different license. It should say zip 9 accurate in the geocode accuracy JSON object. Yeah.
So that's the easiest way to check, really, if it's on or not. Like if you have the correct parameters, run a couple of addresses, and if they all say zip 9, that's how you know it's not turned on.
That is correct.
Okay. It'll also tell you accuracy level, right? Like
Yes.
accuracy level, rooftop accuracy level.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, parcel or yeah. So it'll have those available. And then yeah, if you do have that license, make sure you pass in the license parameter. That's also just down to best practices. You want to make sure that you're as explicit as you can be when you're setting up those HTTP calls, even if it may be redundant or it's not necessary. It just helps not only clients understand what is exactly happening there, but it also helps us if we need to diagnose an issue that you may be getting, which could be a 402, payment required. It's saying that you don't have the correct parameters or licenses or something. Then yeah, that's something that we can work with. So it helps us a lot. Oh, sorry, I clicked off. What do people need rooftop geocodes for? One of the biggest examples that I can think of is in with delivery services. So I'm sure we've all used a number of these services that are available. There is a couple that do not use us, and it has become apparent that the delivery can be a bit rough. So it's not as smooth as of a client experience as one might hope.
You were telling me that you order food periodically to
Yeah.
your home.
Yeah.
And there are some delivery services that you don't use anymore because you have to end up calling them to tell them how to get to your place every single time.
Yeah.
Turns out they're not customers.
Yeah, it happened every time. So yeah, but then there are the other ones where I have never had to do that, and it's been nice and easy, super smooth. So yeah, we would recommend using our services if you plan on doing something like that. We also have medical software to suggest care closest to a patient. We do have a couple emergency services that will use our API to determine how far away the closest place might be where they can get care for their patient. Risk mitigation in the insurance industry.
This is a huge one. Like if there's an apartment building or something that has a lot of hypothetical, let's just say this. There's an apartment building and a rock slide area. The apartment buildings closest to the rock slide are going to be in more danger than the apartments further away from the rock slide area. And having that rooftop geocode will help to understand that risk.
Correct. Yeah, it helps a lot. And then we are also moving forward with a address enrichment API. So that one also provides a lot of information. It has up to 360 data points that can be used, especially for gathering information on those addresses. But of course, this is more about the rooftop geocodes. But yeah, it definitely helps with that. Risk analysis and underwriting. That one's I personally don't know too much about that one, but we've had a lot of people report that is one that they use our rooftop geocoding services quite a lot for. Large rural areas, identifying buildings on large properties. So again, we kind of passed this as an example before, but if you have a very big area, there's a very big plot of land.
A farm.
Yeah.
And you've got 7 buildings, but they're not all in the center of the farm.
Yeah, could be, barn house or something. With our API, we are able to determine, okay, this is the primary residence. This is where you want to take your mail. This is where you want to make your deliveries. This is where the people are. So yeah,
was that a Little Mermaid quote?
Maybe. But yeah, it's much easier to work with when you have those rooftop geocodes that can take you right to where you need to go. Utility mapping, that's a big one that we've seen most get a big reduction in installment costs for, because when they're running lines or running fiber installation, if they're off by just a little bit, then it can cause a very big expense to correct.
And when we're saying little bit, we're talking like 3 feet.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be much. But yeah, that correction can cost thousands. So that's a big one that we've seen people use our service for. Businesses in large buildings. So yeah, you have
it's similar to that apartment building example we talked about, except that now it's a mall.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. it's a giant strip mall. You don't know where to go, where to take this particular thing, or if it's business. What suite is it? There's
Right.
this list, huge long row of potential suites that it could be in. Who knows if you're walking in the right door? But this will help. Direct you
Awesome.
right
We
to where
do
you need
have
to
a
go.
question that came up here.
Sure.
Now this session is called Tips for Setting Up Your Geocoding API,
Mhm.
but many of our other tools don't require that you use an API. In fact, even our address validation, you can do it through a Google plugin on Google Sheets or Excel, something like that. Is it possible to use rooftop geocoding, just like submit a flat file and get additional rooftop fields from the web through the web validation tool?
Yes. So that kind of goes back to an earlier point. You do want to make sure that you submit the US Rooftop Geocoding Cloud as the license value. I believe it's step 3 in our.
Are you able to show that?
Yeah, I can bring it up here. I believe it's step 3. If it'll. Oh, that's right.
You're in full presentation mode.
So if we go to bulk address validation for lists, this is just our demo page. So this might not actually return the full record. It only does 10. But okay, license, it's step 4 here. We would recommend checking step 3. But in here, you want to include
whatever your license is. So if you've got the US rooftop geocoding, you would enter US rooftop geocoding, and you can find that license parameter if you don't know exactly what you have inside of your account.
Correct. So, actually,
Nobody look.
nobody
Just
look.
kidding. Just kidding. But yeah, it's inside of your
in your account. If you go to the subscriptions tab, it should be on the left-hand side. Then it'll show your entire list of subscriptions, and then you should see license value also just next to I think it's the usage details. You can click that, it'll copy it straight to your clipboard, and then you can paste it into that bulk address validation license there. So again, that could be just US Rooftop Geocoding Cloud. If you have an enterprise license, US Rooftop Geocoding Enterprise Cloud. It can be very wordy, but we do try to make it easier by giving you that clipboard available.
Another question has come up. When you don't have, and you being Smarty, if we run it and we don't have a rooftop or parcel match for an address, what do we get instead?
We will give you the highest that we have available. Almost all of the addresses in the US have at least a zip 9 assigned. There are some areas that are PO box only. USPS has made it so that they are not. Essentially, they just don't deliver to that area, so they don't have an assigned +4 code. When that's the case, you might see a zip 5. So it'll be just, with the centroid point of a zip code that you would normally see. We are trying to expand that as well. We do have our non-postal data set, which we're also updating and providing geocodes for. Again, if you see it's inaccurate, let us know. But in the case that we don't have it in our non-postal data and we do not have it as a zip +4, you'll see a zip 5. At the very least, you'll see a zip 5 assigned.
And it will say that in the match level or whatever it's called.
Yeah, let me actually double check to get the name. So if we go to address validation APIs, we have our US Rooftop Geocoding. Actually, let's go back to, we'll just do US Street. That should have, okay. So this one already has the Rooftop Geocoding Cloud license in there. This is, again, a demo page. It should be down here. Here we go. Precision. So in the metadata,
that's what it's called.
Under precision, then you'll see rooftop.
Or
zip 9, parcel, zip 5 at the worst. So yeah, that way you can kind of quickly tell what you have, what you're getting back, and then if you need to make any corrections like adding that license value, then that should get you that rooftop license.
Awesome.
So, okay, let's go back in. We'll skip through that. But okay, that's the end of that. More questions. Is there anything else?
There is a question here that came up about the value of rooftop versus parcel. If I'm working mostly suburban, if I'm just worried about a city,
Mhm.
um, is there a lot of value between rooftop versus parcel?
They're they're so close. I think it's a zip. Technically, it's zip 10 versus zip 11. So it's like this is the plot of land, this is the building, or this is the delivery point. So really, they're hardly different. They might as well be the same, but yeah, it pretty much gets you where you need to go. In almost no cases have we found that it's been problematic, I guess.
But
To
again,
have the
if you're
different.
coming up with buildings that have many residences within one building, then in those cases it would be much more
Yeah, then it could.
advantageous.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, another question. What is the accuracy of the matches from your non-postal database?
From the non-postal, that is included in um that 95,
It was 85 and 11, I think.
85 and 11. So that's included in there as well. So from from what I can remember, almost all of the addresses that have been submitted through our non-postal data a um have a at the very least a zip 9 accurate geocode roughly. They don't have a zip 9 technically assigned because it's a USPS specific field. But that's roughly where we get it to. So I haven't seen any that don't have a geocode assigned.
Now this is, of course, today we're talking about US address, US geocodes. What countries do we support for geocoding?
Every country that we have listed in our international documentation, I believe.
Like all of them.
Gosh, yeah, pretty much. Again, that one can be a little fuzzy. It depends on the accuracy of the geocodes that we're getting from that country. So if they just don't assign geocodes to particular buildings or certain areas, then we unfortunately are not able to provide super accurate geocodes.
And we've held other webinars about fuzzy logic and things like that, where we've developed ways to make them more accurate. They are rooftop accurate in the United States.
Yes.
And there are other countries that we have
rooftop accurate.
But we can get you a geocode to a level for every address in the world.
Yeah. So like one of the better ones, of course, Canada, Australia, Great Britain is another big one. I know China's very difficult since it has 3D cities basically. So it's kind of hard to get the geocode points for those. Plus, they don't have highly detailed address data. But yeah, we will do as much as we can to make sure that we provide a geocode at least.
And I think it's also important to note that we tell you that precision.
Yes.
And we tell you that precision honestly, unlike some other places. Right.
Yeah.
If some addresses have an apartment or suite number, but most don't, can the granularity be set to one geocode for the rooftop and ignore the apartment and suite?
Sorry.
I think what you're asking here is if I have a list of addresses and some have apartment and suite and some don't, can I get one geocode for the rooftop and ignore those that have the apartment or suite?
Yes. So that's going to be the primary. I guess it's the primary address. That will be the geocode that you could get, and most of the time when it comes to the apartments, they have their own internal delivery system, essentially. So they can just put it in the recipient's mailbox. They'll handle it from there, and then you can just keep that primary geocode for that primary address instead of having a bunch of different geocodes for, apartment 121, 122, and so on.
Right.
So yeah.
Excellent. Um, let's see. This is how is geocoding tied up with Smarty's bulk address validation API? To what percentage geocoding used in large dataset validation? Okay, so I think what this is asking is when I'm using address validation through the API.
Sure.
Right now, without purchasing rooftop level geocoding, without getting into that, you're going to get a geocode for every single address.
Correct.
Right. And
Yep.
all you have to do is add that parameter. And in that same API, you don't have to really set anything up. You just have to set the parameter.
Correct.
You will then start getting those rooftop level geocodes for every single address that you run through the regular Smarty API.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
all you need to do is change that license value, and then you're good to go. You'll immediately start getting those rooftop geocodes. So.
Excellent. Can you talk more about utility mapping? Is that to specific electric gas meters or something else? So we had talked about utility mapping when it comes to fiber installation.
Yeah.
Again, those geocodes are not geocoding for the meter. They're geocoding for the rooftop of the building. So the example that we gave with fiber, one of our customers noted that when they were running fiber to a location, they had the data. They went out and started digging trenches according to their maps, and then it turned out that the rooftop level data they had wasn't actually rooftop, and they weren't able to get to the house, so they had to redig trenches, remeasure everything, and it cost them a lot of money. Again, it's just giving you the location of the rooftop. It's not giving the location of
The actual
the utility box or whatever. So maybe we may have pitched that wrong. How do geocodes separate the floor level from the top level? Like, let's say there's a apartment 101 and then there's an apartment 201.
Oh, gotcha. We actually don't have anything for that yet. We are looking for ways to improve that. I don't think we have any plans currently, but again, yeah, we are right now. It's pinned to the top. Depth.
They would have the same geocode.
It would have the same geocode.
Apartment 101 versus 201.
Correct.
Same geocode.
Yeah.
Excellent. Does the API call return one address only, or can we send 100 addresses in a single call? Additionally, what is the cost difference between retrieving 50,000 addresses a month, uploading lists on the website versus the same number of addresses via the API?
So yes, you can do lists through the with the geocoding API or the geocoding license. Since it's US Street, it's still the same API. You can submit post requests up to 100 addresses at a time. Same thing, it'll return all of those. You can pump them through as quickly as you want, and it'll be just as fast as we've always been. Just with those rooftop geocoding APIs. What was the other half on that?
Is there a cost difference between retrieving addresses monthly by uploading lists through the website versus just connecting an API?
No, they are the same. So all you're buying when you subscribe to us is just the number of lookups. There is an expiration time. You can purchase them for 1 month or you can purchase them for a year. Yeah, so costs are the same either way. It's just the number of lookups that you're going to need.
Great. This is a great question. So what happens if a user provides incorrect zip code or city name gets spelled incorrectly or something like that? Are addresses still getting cleaned and standardized like they would with the US address validation API?
Yes, they are still getting organized properly and assigned the correct names. Of course, you'll see that reflected in our return as well. You should see in, I believe it's in the metadata as well, that there were some changes made to the address. But yeah, same things apply. You'll see them corrected and given the correct names and zip codes.
Excellent. And then the last question, and this is a wonderfully fitting question, not directly related to our topic, but if we have a question about setting up one of the SDKs, like let's say a Python SDK or our new Rust SDK, where do I go to get help?
You can send those to support@smarty.com. You can send any email questions in email. If you go to our website, we do also have a little chat bubble that should
You
be
wanna
at the
show
bottom
that?
right. Sure.
It's
We
we
should
like to
have
do
it.
this. It's almost a joke. On any page on our site, there's this chat bubble in the corner. It pops up. I have to move the Zoom interface stuff. Okay, just start typing and I'll alert the humans. You can say, I have a question about the Python SDK. There we go. Here's Lisa. She says, hi, how can I help? And then I'll just tell her you passed the test. Thanks, Lisa. And we'll move on there. Anyway. Yeah, so that's all we have time for. I see a couple extra questions coming up. Do you have a moment, Ben? Can we continue?
Sure. Yeah.
I do want to let you guys know that if you'd like to try these geocodes, by all means, you can go to smarty.com and in the I don't remember. Shoot, I should know our website. I'm also having under products, there's US geocoding along with other things, and you can try it out there. You can also chat in to try to get help on trying these out and seeing what they're like and what kind of things they'll return. Since you've got time, we'll take just a couple more questions. So we've been doing a recursive update of zip city zip to do a progressive cleanup.
Okay.
For the case where is the input address provided is cleaned. What if the user provides a correct zip code or city named incorrect zip code or city named incorrectly? We fix, then resubmit. Is that standard practice to fix and resubmit?
You can. We also do correct those. So there are two combinations, well, technically three, that you can submit that will make the corrections for you. So you can submit street, city, state. So have that street number and the street name, and then just a city, state. Zip code could be non-existent, and then we'll return it with the assigned zip code. Same thing with street and zip. So you don't have to have the city and state. You can just have that primary house number, street name, and the zip code, and then we'll return it with the correctly assigned city state. But if there's an incorrect city and incorrect zip, then one of those does need to be corrected. That's all. Yeah.
Excellent. And then the real last question. Are there dumb questions to ask support?
There are no dumb questions. We will be more than happy to help. Yeah, it actually gives us a good sense of pride when we can solve an issue quickly.
Excellent. All right, great. Thank you so much, Ben. Thanks everybody for joining our webinar. We hope you found it useful and that you'll try out geocoding if you aren't already, and that you'll join us in future webinars. Thanks a lot. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.